Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. This is Taliesin McKnight, and today I wanted to talk about the Eleusinian mysteries and about Persephone becoming the queen of the dead and of the underworld. The Eleusinian mysteries are one of the most famous and ancient initiatic institutions that we have information on. It involved initiation that was transformative. So we have the public religion that had to do with the priesthood making offerings to the gods in the temples. And then we had the mysteries that served as a transformative and more intimate encounter with the deity that was transformative for the individual and also secret. It was very intimate, what happened in the mysteries that were so transformative. We don't really know. We don't have a lot of details. The ancients have maintained their oaths of secrecy through the millennia, through the centuries. It's a very secret thing. Someone could be put to death or exiled for talking about the Eleusinian mysteries. But we know that they were initiation rites that were transformative for the individuals involved. They took great pains. We have accounts of pilgrimages and purification and fasting that people had to undergo to have this type of transformative experience, sacred to the goddesses Demeter and her daughter Persephone. So what did this entail? What we know is that the initiations were secret and transformative and brought more of an intimate encounter with the divine. The Eleusinian mysteries. And in the northern hemisphere right now, we've entered into the period of autumn. Here in the northern hemisphere, this would be around the time that the Eleusinian mysteries, the greater mysteries, would be celebrated, in which the goddess Persephone would descend to the underworld to become queen of the dead. These initiation rites that were transformative followed the agricultural cycle. Demeter, or Demeter, depending on how you choose to pronounce that, Demeter was associated with agriculture and farming. So with the grain. Think how important the food supply was. So this was a goddess associated with farming, of crops, of planting and harvesting. And in the story, Persephone, her daughter, also a goddess of fertility, Persephone is stolen away by Hades and becomes queen of the underworld, the land of the dead. So she becomes queen of the land of the dead. Remember that Zeus governed the sky and pretty much all the land underneath. Poseidon governed the oceans, the seas. And Hades governed the underworld, the land of the dead. The underworld is often depicted in Greek myth as kind of a bleak and dark and gloomy place. You see in the Odyssey kind of this description of this dark, gloomy place, the place of shades. So the mysteries perhaps gave initiates or mysti a promise of a better afterlife, and perhaps it's found with Persephone. Persephone becomes queen of the land of the dead, and her mother Demeter, mourning her, the loss of her daughter, and searching for her, not knowing she was abducted by Hades. In her mourning, the plants die, and cold enters in, and we enter into a period of winter. This is according, you can see this in the Homeric hymn to Demeter, the Homeric hymn to Demeter, which dates from around the 7th or 6th century BC. The Homeric hymn to Demeter describes that the world entered into the period of winter and cold. Everything seemed to die. Persephone has become the queen of the underworld, the land of the dead, and Demeter doesn't know what happened to her daughter. Finally, with the help of Hecate and Helios, she discovers that Hades had stolen her away. And Demeter, in her mourning, she refused to do her job, which was to make the plants abundant, to make the fruits ripen, to cause the seeds that are planted to bloom in the harvest. And remember, this is the food supply. So Demeter, not doing her task of making the earth fruitful, the earth goes into the period of winter and cold. Everything is threatened. This is the food supply. Humans face starvation. The gods also would not be able to get their offering. Without the food and drink offering and the sacrifices, the gods would not be able to get their offerings either. So Zeus had to do something. So Zeus finally persuades Hades to let Persephone return, so that the earth can become fertile and bloom again with life. Hades tricks Persephone to eat the pomegranate seed, but if you eat something from the underworld, you have to return. So because of this, Persephone spends half the year, or 2/3 of the year, half the year, depending on the account, with Demeter, and this is the springtime. When Persephone returns from the underworld, life blooms and you enter spring, which is rebirth. The trees start to turn green again, and flowers bloom, and the animals mate. You enter into spring and summer, this fertile season, and bringing in the harvest and all of this, and planting the grain, and the earth is abundance in the spring and summer. This is followed by the final harvest, and by Persephone descending into the underworld at autumn around this time, for us in the northern hemisphere, and becoming queen of the dead, queen of the land of the dead. And again, Demeter, the earth goes barren and cold in the winter. So what we have here is a seasonal cycle tied to Persephone's return from the underworld, and the earth blooms with new life and rebirth, and the summer and the harvest, followed by, at the autumn, Persephone is separated from her mother and becomes queen of the dead, and the earth turns cold and we enter into winter, the period of death, right? And again, new life at the spring. So this is one of the oldest initiatic, with initiates that we have surviving, that we know of. I mean, it doesn't survive. That we have these clear, not really clear, but accounts that we knew that something went on there. So we know that this was an initiatic thing. The initiates were called mysti. And so the initiates were initiated into a secret knowledge and a transformative experience that may have given them a promise more pleasant than just going to the underworld and being in the realm of Hades. Maybe a better afterlife. We don't know what that would entail. Is the mystery or the secret metempsychosis or reincarnation that will return, like Persephone, and return every time? So is the secret talking about metempsychosis, like the Orphic mysteries, where you have a death and then a rebirth? Or is it some type of afterlife where you could be in like the Eleusinian fields or in the blessed realm for an eternity? We really don't know. But it seems like those that were initiated into the Eleusinian mysteries believed that they had a better outcome in the afterlife for that knowledge with Persephone. And again, she's the queen of the dead. and then she returns from the underworld at spring and new life blooms. So we have an agricultural and farming cycle, the mysteries of the goddess of earth and fertility, Demeter, and her daughter Persephone, and this agricultural cycle that has to do with springtime, rebirth, and new life, and in the autumn and winter, decline and death. So it's pretty interesting. And so, and think of how expensive this would have been. So in the springtime, you had the lesser mysteries, where you would have purification, perhaps dedication or vows or something, but there'd be purification, a preparatory period in the spring. The lesser mysteries is actually the life. And then in the autumn, initiates, or those being initiated, would fast and pray, probably undergo purification rites. It said that they went on a 30-kilometer walk or pilgrimage from Athens to Eleusis. The word Eleusinian mysteries comes from the name of the city, Eleusis. And this pilgrimage and being hungry was probably very trying. And they would go to the Telesterion and be initiated and come back transformed. So this was a multiple day thing, and it was very transformative and probably had to do with the descent into the underworld, into the realm of death. So it's actually really fascinating. So whatever took place in these secret initiation rites, you know, they were finally abolished in the 4th century of our Common Era by the Emperor Theodosius. Whatever happened there, you know, what I recommend, we may not be able to go get initiated in those mysteries today, but what we can do is light a candle to Persephone, to Cori. Right now, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, she's now Queen of the Dead. So this is a great time to light a candle for Persephone as Queen of the Dead, and maybe to work with her a little bit during this autumn and winter time, and in the spring, work with Persephone a little bit and ask her to kind of reveal what this means for you. And we as modern spiritual seekers, whatever your tradition may be, I think that it gives us something to reflect upon. We're not separated from nature, we're part of nature, and by reflecting upon these seasonal cycles, these just reflection upon these cycles can be transformative. We're all at some level being initiated by Persephone, by the agricultural cycle, by witnessing it. We're watching a play unfold before our eyes with the turning of the leaves. If you think of the turning of the leaves, they look like the getting gray hairs, right? Finally, the leaves fall off and you enter into a period of what looks like death. The trees are bare. The insects are dormant. A lot of animals are dormant. So the winter time looks like a period of death. Followed by, in the springtime, the trees turn green again. The flowers bloom. The insect activity and wildlife activity picks up, and the trees turn green and the flowers bloom. This is new life. It's the time of planting the seed, and think of the symbolism of planting the seed as sexual, of course. And then the animals are mating, and it's a time of abundance and fertility. So we see a life cycle. So that's something to reflect upon, that as you see the leaves turning and you see autumn taking place, think of the ancient mysteries. The mysteries of the ancient goddess live on because they're playing out before our eyes. So what I recommend to people is to think about autumn. Think about this season, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, think about new life and rebirth. These are two sides to one coin: life and death, decline and growth, waxing and waning. This is part of the return. And of course, even today, you see the importances of the solstices, the equinoxes, and everything from lodge magic with the Golden Dawn, to thelemic rituals today, to practitioners of neo-paganism, it's one of the most oldest, and if you look at very ancient old polytheistic systems from around the world, a lot of times it had to do with this agricultural cycle. So it's one of the most ancient things. So it's a very beautiful play that we see unfolding. So right now, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, it's the time of autumn. Persephone is now queen of the underworld, and this is a good time reflecting on the turning of the leaves towards what we are getting rid of in our lives, towards death that we undergo. You know, in the spring and summer, it's a very extroverted type of energy. If we're looking at the tides in nature, autumn and winter are more introspective. We draw inward, we reflect. So that's interesting to think about. And of course, in the southern hemisphere, we'd be entering into the rebirth period. So just a little bit, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Persephone and Demeter. The agricultural or farming cycle is a death and rebirth in ancient Greece, which I am by no means an expert in. I'm just a spiritual seeker, not a scholar, academic, or anything. Just sharing what I, pick up and what I find interesting. But yeah, farming and agricultural cycle. 3,000 years ago they were celebrating this. Way before Hesiod or Homer, any of that. Very ancient, connected with the goddesses Demeter and Persephone, had to do with the mysteries of death in the autumn, or becoming queen of the dead. Not that she dies, but she becomes queen of the dead, and then her return in the spring and new life, and watching this kind of unfold before our eyes. So, quick video on the Eleusinian mysteries, and I hope that everyone is enjoying the season, whether you're with me in the northern hemisphere, and experiencing the play going on, the cosmic play going on with autumn, and working with these energies and integrating them in your life, and a time of reflection. And those of you in the southern hemisphere, you're springing into new beginnings. So. And that's also helping us to align our lives with the cycles of the earth, and also anything that is a full cycle, whether it be through the seasons, or whether it be cycling through the 7 planets, or whether it be cycling through the 72 Shem angels. Anytime you come full circle, that tends to be a transformative thing. Also, partially also because you're dealing with each aspect in this circle or this cosmos, so to speak, okay? You're dealing with life, you're dealing with death, you're dealing with all sides of things. So, I hope that everyone is having a great season and enjoying everything going on with nature and working with it and reflecting upon it. And I will see y'all in the next video. Thank you so much, y'all. All right, have a great day, y'all. Thank you.